Welcome back to another episode of Cats Out the Bag. I'm Kat, and this is going to be my sobriety series that I'm starting. Today I have Bree with me again. She's back for another episode.
Hey, everybody.
And we have Vinny here.
Hi, everybody.
This is his first time on Cats Out the Bag. This isn't like my regular shows that I do. Obviously, we get a little crazy on those. But this is basically going to be focused on creating a platform to bring people here to tell their stories about recovery and addiction. And
Don't make sobriety seem boring.
it's not.
It's not.
There's a lot of, stigmatism. Is that the word?
I guess you could say, yeah. Almost like kind of how you're like stereotypes with
Stereotypes,
the tattoos.
yeah.
Like when you were asking me last time how it is to be a tatted woman.
Right.
I think people think of the addict in addiction, not after addiction.
Right.
That's what it is.
And I feel like so many people, at least me, I'm not sober, but I have two parents that are alcoholics, and they've been on and off for years. And I wanted to kind of create a platform so people can come and tell their stories about the after, because so many people only see people addicts on the street and they always give it like a bad name.
Yeah.
And I feel
Not
like
even that. I feel like people just see like after and or before and not what they went through in the middle, and also like what it took to get where they are now.
Right.
And a lot of people just look past that, and I'm not an addict anymore. I'm a recovered addict.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a small percentage of people that actually do recover,
Right.
so that's really the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think society, they show you the addict in addiction. You know,
Mhm.
like that's really what it is. Even like just everywhere you go, like
They
when
make
you
it seem
think-
like you have no hope.
yeah, like when you think addict, you think of like that side of it,
Right.
You know, but it really is a small percentage. Like I speak at rehabs all the time. Like it's like 2%
Right.
of the people in there are gonna get clean. You know,
Right.
So
And I feel like so many people don't only tell their stories when they're in meetings. And I wanted to create a safe place for people to come to
I
like
love
share
that.
them with the world, because when I go to them, because I go to Al-Anon on and off, and then I'll go sometimes to like open meetings with my
Mhm.
parents just to like support them. And
Mhm.
you hear these stories and they're like unbelievable.
powerful.
I'm like, I'm in there crying.
I just
Yeah.
know
Everybody
if I
else
went
is
to
used to it.
rehab and actually spoke, because I've wanted to, but I haven't grown the balls to, that I could probably put an impact on people around our age. Because
Definitely.
I'm not like, I'm cool. Like, I'm pretty cool. You know, I have my life together and I do cool things.
You're right.
And, like, I took that chance and I turned my life around instead of running the wrong way with it, because I could have got out of rehab and said, fuck it, let's go pop a Xan again. Or like, I'm going to go down a bottle of Henny, because that's what life was.
Right.
You know?
yeah. Well, I mean, so many people do that. That's really the thing. you
And
know?
Yeah.
especially with COVID, like how
Yeah.
I was saying, I got
COVID
sober
was
during
tough,
COVID.
like-
Like I was stuck in an environment, also in a shitty relationship with someone who did not love themselves. So I'm next to someone who literally speaks about themselves like crap every day. Like,
Mhm.
how do you love me? I'm so fat. I'm so like, you can't be around that. And you're trying to get sober. You're trying to get better. And this person's promising they're going to like help you, like, and like let you be on your path. You can't. You're stuck at their house with them for every day
Right.
because you're in quarantine.
Yeah.
It's getting sober was probably the hardest part of my life, but once I got through it, I didn't learn like myself until a few years into it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, COVID was crazy. Like they shut the meeting places down. Zoom started, which was cool.
Yeah.
But the thing, like for me, like I was home, like so I was working at home, cutting hair. So like it was easy to put a Zoom meeting on, turn the camera off, go make a cup of coffee,
Right.
like kind of chill. I think the thing that really helped me through COVID, and I talk about this a lot in meetings, was like I had sponsees that were still like
Calling you.
calling.
Yeah,
in
no,
it,
I had a
wanted
sponsor
to get
for
together,
the first year.
wanting to do that stuff. So like that was kind of the thing that like helped drag me through COVID. And then once we started coming out, I went like for my group, like I had to go find a new spot, and we did those
Right.
things. So, like, but people that got clean during COVID, crazy,
Yeah.
crazy. Because I already had 5 years.
I'm
at
so
that
thankful
time.
I flushed all my pills down the toilet before I went to rehab, because I know if I came out, because I lived on my own.
Yeah.
And that was like a big thing for me when I got sober, is I was scared to come out
Mm-hmm.
alone and be on my own, because
Right.
the liquor store's right there, 7-Eleven's right there, everything's right there, your local drug dealer's right on speed dial.
Right.
Like, nope, I got a new phone. I deleted my old phone number. I deleted my old life. I literally say to everybody, I killed that girl. I know it sounds crazy, but I did.
Mhm.
Like, I have memories and things that like stay with me, but there's also things that just push me further. I don't regret the things that I've done in my life, because it makes me this person now.
Yeah.
And I
I
would
get
not be
that.
this strong of a
Mhm.
person without all the testaments that have come to me with drugs and alcohol. Especially living in Ronkonkoma and growing up in the Sachem area, I feel like drugs were really, really like a big thing
Yeah.
in our school. And it's sad because a lot of the people didn't make it that got
Mhm.
hooked on the things. A lot of the people didn't make it.
Even I mean, I went to Longwood, and even like walking or driving up Middle Country, I see people that I went to high school with that never got clean. They're standing outside of 7-Eleven. Girls I did cheerleading with.
That's crazy.
Like
Yeah.
it's such a sad
I'm
reality
assuming
for so many
I'm
people.
much older than you guys. Like,
Age is a number. Age is a number.
well, I'm just saying, like, when I was younger and like we didn't even know what addiction was. Like,
Mhm. Right.
like that wasn't even a thought. Like, so I had a friend of mine that was, now when I look back, was obviously, he passed away from drugs, but like, we would just be like, yo, stop doing coke, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Kick the habit.
yeah, like, what are you doing? Like, stop doing that shit. That shit's crazy. Like, you know, we didn't even really understand what addiction was. When I was doing pills, I didn't even know what withdrawals were.
Yeah.
Like, I had
didn't
no
know
idea.
until the day I actually
you know, like
came
I
off of
stopped,
them.
you know, I would just like stop taking pills and just kind of feel like shitty and just go to work thinking like, oh man, I'm sick. You know, like I
Yeah.
had no idea. You know, once I started understanding what withdrawals were, it almost made it worse because then I was like,
I don't want to go through
that
withdrawal.
shit.
Yeah.
You know, so you did whatever you could, and it just progressively got
I think
worse.
I was
but-
lucky enough that I didn't really go through that when it came to the end of it because I was prescribed Xanax. So, and I was prescribed 2 milligrams a day. And if anybody knows what that means, that's
That's
a lot.
Yeah.
And I would finish those scripts before the month ended. And I was drinking White Claws on them. I was like known at my local like BP to come in and just buy like all the boxes of White Claws,
Yeah.
you know, and drinking on Xanax is lethal.
Mhm.
And I didn't know what withdrawals were until I decided in January of 2020 to go and say, okay, I'm going to stop.
Right.
And then I went into work 3 days off the shits. And I'm like
Like
fucking
shaking.
sweating. And like, I just look at my boss and I'm like, before I look at anybody else, and I was like, I think I need help. And like, I'll never forget that. Like, and he gave me a phone number and he was like, good, we know you need help. And
Yeah.
like, I never forget.
We were going to
calling-
tell you.
Yeah, like I never forget
Wasn't
calling
like-
in the
yeah,
bathroom.
but,
I'm in the bathroom on the phone.
You were shaking in the
An
ballroom.
addiction. Like I'm literally crying in the bathroom at work, like on the phone with some person that they're telling me I need to go to rehab and all this shit, and I'm like getting a whole life flash to my face at work, and I'm like, okay, it's
This
time
is-
to change your life,
Yeah.
and you could either take it seriously and go and do it, or you could fuck around and go to rehab for 30 days and waste your time and then be like those people who are back 7 times. Because when I looked at those
Mhm.
people, I said, I'm not gonna be those people.
Yeah. The one thing that really stuck, well, in rehab, I met some friends, like, turned out to
You
be
make friends. You
well,
make
no, not
like,
people in
friends
rehab.
there.
I'm not saying the people in rehab. When they came in and brought the meetings in, because
Okay.
I never did anything. But I didn't know what AA was, NA, like, I didn't know any of that shit.
Mhm.
I just knew that I was fucked up, and I didn't really know what to do about it. Like, really, that's the truth. Like, I was planning out, like, all right, how am I gonna live the rest of my life like this?
Right.
Like, what do I got to do? Like, how much money do I got to make? How can I make these pills last? How can I make these drugs last? Like, I was really thought, like, this is it. Like, this is the rest of my life. And, you know, a phone call, whatever, I end up in rehab. And then when I was there and they brought meetings in,
Mhm.
I was like, damn, like, from the beginning, I didn't even believe them.
I think Bridge fucked me up.
Yeah,
the
I was
worst.
like, yo, there's no way these fucking people are clean. Like,
Right.
that's not, doesn't even sound like normal to me. And then it was just this one dude who, like, I just believed him. And honestly, the thing I believed was that he was happy.
Why do
more
I
than
feel like I know
anything
who you're
else.
talking
Yeah.
about?
You know,
too?
like, this one dude just seemed happy. And at that point, I was so miserable that I was like, damn, if I could get, like, happy like that, like, I might as well try it. And I went and I spoke to the guy that brought the meeting in. And he was like, yo, come here when you get out. Come to this place. I'll be there. And then I started talking to, like, the TAs and shit, like, the people that work there. Then you find out, like, yo, this one's got 7 years. This is 2 years. They all do meetings. And they're, like, in that world.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started asking them mad questions. It wasn't even really the people in there. It was more the workers. Forget the counselors. Like, I didn't even
The
talk to my
counselors,
counselor.
yeah,
Right.
Like, I literally just talked to the TAs, like the people that actually worked in the facility. And then, and
the
I would,
nurses helped me more than the
like,
counselors.
yeah. And they just kind of were like, yo, you know, they were all, I was in this area anyway. Like, I lived out east, you know? So,
Yeah.
like, everything they were talking about was, I was familiar with. I knew Riverhead. You know what I'm saying? Like I understood Cinema Riches, like, oh, there's meetings in Cinema Riches, the meeting in Riverhead. Like I could fucking do that. Like 10 minutes from my house, you know? And that's what I did. I went out to the meeting where that dude was, and that was just how it started.
So for the people that don't know you, tell them at least who you are and what you do, and then how you got into addiction, like when it started and when it really got bad.
All right, so I cut hair for a living. I've been doing it now. I've been doing it since '98. I'm not gonna do the math. What is that? 26, 27
He's been
years.
doing it a while.
I've been doing it a long time.
I was born in '96.
Yeah. I was a late bloomer, honestly, with drugs. Like I played sports in high school. I went to college to play baseball. So I didn't really like. I was against drugs, you know, but I drank. Obviously, to me, it was just what kids did. When I look back on it, like I was excessive drinking, always blacking out. I was the one that got carried to the room, throwing up. Like there was never like a buzz and chill, you know. So like when I could look back on it now, I could realize that like wow, it was even then. It just never really hit me. When I started working in the barbershop, now I'm going to clubs. I introduced cocaine and ecstasy and like all these other narcotics, and then I started taking pills. I had done that all the way through like the 2000s, you know, but never anything crazy. When my father passed away, which was 2009, was when I just didn't grieve properly. I was very mad at him for dying. Like my father was much older, so when I was younger, he was always working, and I felt like at that point now he was supposed to be there to help me, you know, do my basement. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like do things that like men do with their fathers at that age in their lives. So I was very angry, and I just went into work, and I felt like in order to work the way I had to work, I needed to be on painkillers. And that was really just a run. And then it just progressively got worse, you know? I remember the first time I sniffed a Roxy, I was like against, like, it's so funny. Like you're always against something and then you do it. And then it's like, well, at least I'm not doing this.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like when I hear people talk about that in meetings, like that's so part of my life. Like, oh, well, I'm never going to do this. And then I do it. And it's like, well, at least I'm not doing this, you know, or this guy's sniffing 4 at a time. I'm only doing 2, you know, like trying to hang out with people who are worse than you.
Mine was at least I'm on prescriptions.
Yeah,
not
you know,
street.
yeah. I would scam a prescription, sell the prescription to get different types of pills that were stronger and stuff like that. And then
You'll do anything.
Yeah, it got bad. It got, you know, I don't remember exactly how the timeline worked out, but like I came home one day, my bags were in. No, the first thing that happened was the guys at work started talking to me about it, and my wife asked me about it, and I was like, look, I have a problem. And again, like my family didn't know, so they had like this big meeting, and they were like, if you do it again, you're gonna let us know, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm never gonna do it again, you know. That was like the first introduction of it. I stayed home for a couple days, a little sick, and then I just went back out and started getting high again. Then and then I came home one day and my bags were in the driveway. My wife was like, you're out. You know, you got to get the fuck out. So I slept at the barbershop. You know, slept at the barbershop. Next day came back kind of like begging, I'll go to a fucking therapist. So I went to a drug therapist. I went there and I was like, this guy's fucking full of shit. I'm like, next week I'm getting fucking wrecked. I bet you he won't know. And that's, you know, it starts all over again, right? So then that was that. And then
But that's because also at that time you weren't ready yourself to
no,
go and get
I didn't
clean.
even really
You
honestly
didn't know what was going on with yourself. You
I didn't
know
really
you were...
I don't think at that point in my life I really felt like I was an addict.
That's what I mean.
Like, you know
Like,
what I'm
you
trying to
didn't
say?
know
Like, yeah, like,
yourself.
I still felt at that point in my life like things are bad, but I could just I remember when I got kicked out and I was in the barbershop, my brother-in-law calls me and he's like, yo, do you understand that the two of you are like you're a power couple? Like it could be really good. I was like, fuck her.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll just stop doing drugs. I'll go get a fucking apartment and I don't need her. Like that, like in my mind, it was just as soon as I'm ready to stop, I'm just going to stop and I'm never going to do them again. Like I just wasn't at that point, you know? And then same thing, like she's going to kick me out again. I'm like, oh, I'll go on Suboxone. So I went on Suboxone and I did a full summer of just Suboxone. But when I think about that, like I got hooked on a phone game. So what I would tell myself was, I'm not spending all this money on drugs, so I could buy $50 Apple gift cards every day for this phone game. And like, that's what I did. every single day for June, July, and August, I bought $50 of Apple gift cards for this game that I was playing and justified it because I was spending
I mean,
quadruple that on
you're
drugs.
talking to someone who's gonna say right now that's a better addiction than drugs, though.
It
So
is,
like,
but
you know,
like-
like
but
you're
the
turning
the
your
point
bad
of life
addiction
is
into
like-
a good
the game?
addiction.
Clash of Clans.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But the point of addiction is to be like real recovery is to be happy with yourself, right? Like not to fill like yourself with like these outside voids, right? Like I should be able to be at peace kind of with myself where I don't need to do these types of things, you know? And then what happened was Labor Day weekend came and I got some coke. Did coke, took a piss test for the Suboxone doctor. And I didn't even know. And he was like, yo, there's cocaine in your system. I'm like, yeah, who cares? You know, like, fuck, what are you talking about? It's not pills. Like, Suboxone's for pills. Like, coke isn't bad. He was like, bro, I can't give you a script. Like, you have to come back here next week and be clean. Yo, 2 days in, that was it. And then I went right on that, probably the craziest stretch at that point. So it was from September literally until July. And then I went into rehab August 1st. And then that was it. I've never done anything again. You know, that was it. It was my first rehab. It was like my first attempt. I got out. I do meetings. But I'm like really big into meetings. Like really, really big into meetings. Like I believe it's like life changing. It's so weird. I'm sure you're familiar with like step work and stuff like that. Like I make my kids do step work. Like I raise them in the same way that like I feel like the rooms kind of raises me. You know, like the perspective change on life that it's given me and stuff like that. And like I bring that into my home and I feel like it's working. Like, you know, like I'm very open with my kids. Like, I'll tell you a funny story where I'm with my son yesterday. I'm driving him. He came to get a haircut, and then I took him to go get lunch. We're driving back to the barbershop, and he's like, yo, do you still know somebody that lives in this development? And I was like, it was somebody I got drugs from, bro. I don't know. Did I tell you I knew somebody? And he just started laughing. He was like, yeah, you said your friend lived in there. I was like, well, no. Like, I got drugs from somebody in there, you know? But, like, I'm very open with my kids. You know, like they know they just know. They come to meetings. They come to my anniversary every year. You know, it's a part of my life. And I'm like, really, I don't know the risk. Like to me, like the risk isn't worth the reward to stop.
Right.
That's kind of how I look at it. Like I'm 9 years clean. My life is way better today than it was 9 years ago. Why stop? You know, like I don't.
Do you feel like if you didn't meet that guy at Seafield that you wouldn't be where you are today? The guy that made you believe?
So I feel there's a couple things that led me here, right? So I think the one kid that spoke that I really believed was happy was the first thing. I saw a customer did the same thing, that he came into the store and I didn't even recognize him. And I think we were just crossing paths of like, as he was getting better, I was getting worse. So like, I didn't really even realize who he was. So when I saw him, it was kind of like, holy shit, I am that fucked up. Like, I remember everybody that comes into the store. I don't even know who this fucking kid is, you know? And then when I got out, I saw somebody that spoke at the meeting when I was in the rehab. So I went up to him just to thank him. You know, I got his number or whatever. I didn't know him. He didn't know me, you know, nothing like that. The next day, I ran into someone that I used to buy drugs from. And it was the first time I had like money in my pocket because my wife wouldn't let me leave with any money. So I had like money in my pocket and I was driving home and I was like, yo, I could go get 2 pills real quick and just no one will know. And I called that guy. I actually, you know, picked up the phone. I called him and the dude was on the phone with me for like an hour. And in the midst of like him being on the phone with me, I heard his kids in the background and I was like, oh shit, are you with your kids? He's like, yeah, I get my daughters once a week, you know, for a couple, you know, for the day. I was like, yo, and you've been on the phone with me the whole time? He's like, well, I mean, they're not going to die. Like, you will. You know what I'm saying? And that was so powerful to me that, like, this guy took time out of his day, his one day with his daughters to kind of talk me off the ledge. And I ended up going home that day. I went to a meeting that night. And I felt like those kind of things set me up for, like, all right, this works. Like, this works. Like, this guy's happy. This dude changed his life. And this guy's actually trying to help me. And he don't even know who the fuck I am, you know, like, so I think those 3 things early on were very convincing to me. And then just like, there's a perspective change, you know, like you go to meetings and sometimes you see somebody and you hear the shit they say. And I'm like, I can't even picture it. Like, I don't even believe you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're such a different person that like, I can't believe you did the things that you're saying you did. So then that's that hope or like that aspiration of like, wow, I could be like that too, where I'll be unrecognizable, you know? And I like that, you know?
Yeah. It's like you're creating new versions of
Of
yourself each
yourself,
year.
yeah. Like I always say, like it's just waking up every day and trying to be better today than I was yesterday. That's really it. As long as I can try to be better today than I was yesterday,
Do
then I'm
you
having
have
like a good
anything
day.
you would say to yourself during the
I
September to July dark days? Let's
I
call
gotta
it.
be I gotta be honest. So this is again like a perspective change. I believe that every single course of action in my life led me to this moment. So I wouldn't change anything. You know, there's nothing I regret. You know, I've dealt with that already. You know, like, and I've done like I had kids in addiction. So like, I don't know. Do you have kids?
No.
Like, I did some fucked up shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I have kids. You know, like my son, I thought was too young to really understand the things I was doing. But when I got clean and we would have conversations, like realized that he actually saw the things I was doing. Like, you
Right.
know, maybe didn't understand them. But now when all this is out, he's like, yo, were you actually getting high this day? Like, was that a fucking drug house that you took me to? Like,
Right.
you know what I'm trying to say? Like those types of things. Like, so he understood them. But I still believe that like, if I didn't go through all of that, because at the end of the day, like, I don't really need drugs to be an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I don't need a drugs to fight with my wife. Like I'll put it to you like this, because I think sometimes it's hard for people to really understand like what like the thought process is if you're not in recovery, right? But my wife and I will argue, and she'll say, you know, you're raising your voice. So like my first thought is like I could go much fucking higher than this. Like you really want to see me raise my voice? Like I'll fucking raise my voice, right? Like and when if I was to tell somebody that, they would probably understand that feeling of like, I'm not even fucking yelling, but if you want me to yell, like I could go there. So when I say that to like my sponsor, right, he'll say to me like, well, if her perception is that you're yelling, then she's right. So you need to take the tone down. Do you kind of understand what I'm saying?
100%.
So like what happens then is I go home and I'll tell like my family a lot, like my all of them. It's not just like a wife thing. Like I'll tell my kids and my wife, like, I know that I can speak at high volumes. If you guys feel that that volume is a threatening, yelling type of tone, then I need you to let me know that so that I could bring it down and we could have a fucking human solution-based conversation.
Right.
So if I'm not in recovery, I don't even learn that. So take the drugs away and all that other shit, I could still be speaking down. Like, you know, I can still be speaking at this high level and down to my kids and down to my wife and like making them feel like shit. I don't need drugs to do that.
Right.
Right? I can just be human and do that. You know what I'm trying to say? And it's just like instances like that. Like I've done things with my children where I've had to turn around, especially my son, because maybe this is the, you know, whatever, it's not right, but I do treat my son a little differently than my daughter, right? And there are times where I have to go up to him and be like, yo, look, I'm sorry. I should have never spoken to you like that. Like, I'm sorry. When you said this, it made me feel this way. My first reaction was this, and that's the wrong reaction. And I'm going to try not to do that again. But can we come to you know, like a solution? Like, can we make this work? Like, you know, when you act like that, it makes me feel like that. So maybe you can work on not acting like that, and I'll work on not reacting like that, you know? And I think those are the types of things that I've learned in recovery so that make me not want to leave. Right? You know what I'm trying to say? And I just think that's my view. You know, I believe everybody has their right to their own view. Like your opinion is your opinion. Your opinion of me is not my business. You know, like I just feel like I'm trying to do what's right for me and trying to live in this world that I'm trying to live in the best that I can. And so far it's worked for me this way. And I don't really want to change it. That's really what it comes down to.
It's a very good way of looking at things because I've noticed, especially like with my parents, like my mom is now 2 years sober. My dad he's like this in rehab 7 times person. He's such a nice guy. Like they were truly like the most amazing parents. Like I can't even express how much I love them. But their biggest thing together is like the codependency thing. And I feel like his biggest problem is he'll get, let's say, sober 4 days, and then he won't like communicate the way you're saying. So I feel like once they get into their tits, even if it's over like a remote being gone, he'll go, okay, so he won't react in the way you just explained. So like he'll be aggressive and then she'll be aggressive back and then he'll use the fight as an excuse to drink.
To go drink, right.
So
right.
until you're at the place in your life and I guess with your recovery, you're never going to be ready to get sober.
Right.
So that's like one of their biggest things I feel like they need to,
it's just like
work on.
The thing is like life doesn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the things that we used over are going to happen again. It's just going to happen again. Like eventually my mom is going to pass away.
Right.
I used because my dad passed away. So I have to get myself into a position or surround myself with enough help or enough like evidence, right? I'll use the word evidence because like my best friend in this process, his father passed away. And I know for a fact that he would say all the time, like, if my mom or dad die, like, I'm fucking getting high, And like, he said it a lot. I watched his father pass away and I watched all these people like come to him. You know what I'm saying? And then from doing that to the funeral, sending him flowers, being there for him, going back to his mom's house, he's still clean.
Mm-hmm.
That was 3 years ago. He's still clean. So like that evidence of being able to see like, well, he went through it and did it. And then, oh, this guy lost his mom who he lived with and was taken care of. Like he didn't get high over it. Like that evidence tells me that like, okay, I'm at a place in my recovery where like, if my mom was to pass away tomorrow, God forbid, like I'll get through it. Not only will I get through it, I'll be able to handle everything. Right. I know my sister and my brother will be fucking lost. You know what I'm saying? But like, I'll be able to handle those situations and be like the response. So like, it's things like that. Cause like life don't stop. Like I might not have the mortgage this month. Right. Like I would get high over not giving my wife money, So like what happens if I lose my job and I have to know that like, I'll get through this, like, and I think that's like a big part of like what I'm taught in this process.
Right. So you've been on this platform before, and for the people that didn't watch the episode before, because you kind of went over it in that.
Yeah.
What's your history with addiction and your story?
So I definitely started dabbling with drugs and alcohol super early, around like 14. But I also did get into high school at like 14. So, that's a big thing. And I was prescribed ADHD medication. And that's kind of like the first thing that I kind of dabbled in was snorting my Ritalin. Right. Because it's like cocaine. And then you're doing that and you're doing that. And I also played video games at the time. I was like a big World of Warcraft nerd. So like I was super, super into video games. I would stay home and cut class and just play video games. Then I started dabbling in like the ecstasy and the party drugs because when we would go to parties, people would be doing ecstasy now. Now that's normal. Like, you know what I mean? A Four Loko and an ecstasy. Why fucking not? But it's not normal. So I was doing those things and then I found what was LSD. And I think I spent a whole summer tripping on LSD and snorting the Ritalin to keep the trip going because it would keep the colors. And like at that point, I'm so young, I'm fucking my whole head up and I don't even know what's going on. Right. Like I don't even know until I'm getting into all my extracurricular activities and now I'm being removed from the soccer team because I'm smoking a cigarette at the gate by some girl who overdosed on heroin and little did I know she was on heroin that day. But I was wearing my soccer jersey next to that girl. So this is like, your whole life is in your hands and you make those decisions and put yourself in those places. So now once I get kicked off the soccer team, my whole life starts spiraling even more. I'm this badass kid. I'm going to just go do drugs and drink and drink and drink and do drugs and party. That was my life. And that's all I knew until I got out of high school. And then I was experimenting with drugs and I thought it was real LSD and it was fake LSD. And I drove my car home on muscle relaxers, trihexidone. It's like some crazy muscle relaxer that only like 5 people in New York State are prescribed. And my ex-boyfriend at that time was prescribed them. And, we were all like, let's just take pills.
Right.
Like, because this is what you're around. You're around other addicts and you're just all influencing each other. I drove home that day and I ended up in a tree on someone's front lawn. You would think I'd learned my lesson then. let's just say Bree got into 6 car accidents later after that. I had a long run of drugs and alcohol, but I didn't know that I had a problem. I thought it was normal. My family kept begging me to get help, almost kind of like I don't have children, but I was someone's child.
Yeah,
and
course.
like, so for me, it was my mom sticking her fingers down my throat in the bathroom in front of my little sister, which probably is the reason why my little sister is a saint. My little sister is everything I wish I could have grew up to be, because she's a teacher. I mean, like, I love my tattoos. She's just the opposite. She's not covered in tattoos. Like, she's a little goody two shoes. You know what I mean? She never drank. She never drugged. Like, but I feel like a big reason is I scared her straight.
Yeah.
Who wants to see their sister in the toilet with their mom's fingers down their throat?
Right.
Like, I had to almost get my stomach pumped because I decided it was smart to drink a Captain Morgan handle that night and then come home. Are you kidding me? Like, that's not smart. Like, you think it's smart then, but then when you talk about it now and when you talk about all the things you've done in the past, you're like, wow, that was really stupid and I could not be here right now, because that's the reality of it. And we think drinking and driving smart. I have a DWI on my record and I am ashamed of it, because honestly, I watch videos now of like different car accidents and things, or I'll see things pop up. And recently, the one with the nail salon, that cop was one of my brides. So to see that she had lost her life after not even making it to a year of marriage, and me like sending her down the aisle, like, that is crazy, just because one person decided to drive drunk and take 4 lives. I don't think people think of the consequences before they, like, because people are so sick.
I think
at
drugs
some
make
point.
you think things are good ideas.
Yeah, like,
Right.
I
You
honestly
know?
thought I was invincible. I really thought I was invincible. I thought
Yeah.
the cops couldn't get me. I thought I could talk my way out of anything.
Well,
like,
look, it's
but you
it's
can't.
like no one ever thinks it's going to happen to them.
Right.
Like, you could do this with anything, right? Like, no one thinks they're gonna get an STD, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
they don't, not me. Like,
Yeah.
nobody thinks like that. Nobody thinks they're gonna, like, cancer from smoking. That's not gonna happen. Like, drug addict. That's not gonna happen.
I mean, like, with
D-weed,
the cancer from
like-
smoking thing, I just think everything's bad for you, like
Yeah,
the air we
but
breathe at
I
this
just don't-
point.
I don't
So, like,
think-
honestly, I don't know what this guy's saying, but we could talk about that another time.
I just don't think people think the worst is going to happen to
Yeah,
them.
no,
when they're
no
doing
one ever,
things.
because
But, you know,
you're
like-
you're in a whole different mindset.
Yeah.
Your brain chemistry is not normal, and that's another thing. So when I went to rehab, bridge was the biggest part for me. So getting to that,
What's bridge?
bridge was when the family came in and they're sitting across
Oh,
from
yes.
you,
Oh,
and
okay.
you're
I didn't-
fucking
I didn't
spitting
do
your
that.
life out in front of
I
them.
didn't
My
do
mother
that.
was there. Okay, so 1 second. So we get to rehab. Rehab being me, getting down the line to still being addict, still going through the car accidents, whatever. I live on my own now for almost 7 years. I've only been sober for almost 5, as in January, I'll be 5 years sober. So for 2 of those years, I was drinking and drugging. One night, I decided to black out and leave the oven on, and I have a 75-year-old landlord that I could have killed, and myself. I woke up that day and I said, I need to change my life. And, I also was dating someone at the time, and I feel like hearing it from someone else other than your mother saying you need to start with fixing the drugs and the alcohol before you do anything else. That hit me. And that's when I said, okay, I'm not going to drink and drug like those 3 days. And then I
Right.
went to work and I said, I need help. Then I went to my mom and said, I need help. She didn't believe me, because when you're such a good drug addict, you can play it off so well. And then I feel like it started hitting her in her head. Oh my God, she is.
This is
she
it.
has
Yeah.
been. She has been. Like, I was right. Like, she's had a problem the whole fucking time. Yep, I did. So I went to rehab. And I think the biggest part for me in rehab was learning other people's stories. But what bridge was my mother sitting in front of me in a room full of other parents. And my mom got to tell her story on what it was like to be my parent.
Yeah, which is tough to hear.
Oh my,
Yeah.
I could cry right now thinking about the things she
Yeah.
said, because at the end of the day, I feel so horrible for what I put her through. Because when you talk about rage, so a big thing I go through still to this day with her is I have big anger issues, and a lot of those would just come out on the drugs. So when I get mad, my pupils just, like, I become enraged, and like I'll get pissed over the littlest things, and then she'll start accusating. Oh, what are you on? Are
Right.
you on
Mhm.
something? Are you? That makes me even more fucking pissed. And then she goes like even more harder. And I'm like, okay, bring me to the hospital. Let's go do a fucking drug test.
Right.
Because like I have nothing to hide. At this point, you know, a big thing I carry with myself is that a lot of people are always going to hang that over my head.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm done with that. Like I make so much money now. I do so good. Like a big part of my story is I didn't care about myself. I was dating someone when I used to use, and he beat the crap out of me with a belt buckle to my eyeball. And I thought that was like all that was normal. You know what I mean? But like you're dating an alcoholic, and you are an alcoholic, and you guys drink together from the morning to night. What do you expect?
Right.
And, you know, you're both driving with no license at that point. You're both literally doing shit to just fuck up your whole life.
It doesn't seem that way, though.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Weird.
But, like, for the people who are watching and think it's normal, it's not normal. Like, go get your life together. Like, it's not scary, because I feel like the biggest thing I was always scared of, and I think I said this the last time, what are other people going to think about me? Am I going to be able to go out to the bar? Am I going to be able to play beer pong? Am I going to be able to do this? Can I be a normal 20-something-year-old?
Yeah.
And you know what? That's what I'm proving now. That's what I'm proving now. I have Don Julio bottles in my hand, but I'm not drinking them. I'll pour them in other people's mouths. Because if you don't have a problem, you can drink. But I have a problem, so I can't drink. That's the problem. Yeah. We have different body chemistries, and some of us are allergic, as people say. Like, I'm allergic. Me and alcohol broke up. Like, I literally said that. Me and alcohol broke up. Me and drugs broke up. I will smoke my weed, and I'll be okay with it. Like, you know, like, that's about it. Like, I have my joint, and people could judge me for it, but I'm not doing anything to ruin my life, and it's not affecting my life the way the drugs and the alcohol were, you know? Yeah. And Xanax, okay, let's get really vulnerable, people. So I have, you know how people, like, pick at their skin and bite their nails? I have a hair pulling disorder. So growing up, I was bullied in high school. That's another reason why I started doing drugs and alcohol, because we're real people. We are real people here. I ripped my hair out because these girls were telling me I had too much hair. I looked like a lion. Oh, look at her. Like, I had the most beautiful fucking hair. Now I have this habit of ripping my hair out when I'm anxious or upset. And like, you know, like now I'm going through all these drug trials in school and all this shit. And that's what got me to the Xanax. That's what got me to the Xanax, was the anxiety. And I wish it never got to that point, because now I just smoke a joint and I'm like, okay, I'm good for the day. Like, I'm fine. But like at that point, when we put things into doctors' hands and our problems like that, these doctors just write that and they don't know what's going to happen to you. Yeah. They don't know your body chemistry.
I went through that with my son recently. So when I went into rehab, I put my son into therapy. I thought it would be the best thing for him, and it worked out to be great. That the counselor actually said to me, he probably was, I don't remember the time. Let's just call it 16 months. She had a meeting with me, and she was like, whatever you are doing, if you continue to do this, your son will be fine. That was like super impactful for me, you know, like one of those like crying moments in front of a stranger where you're like, oh, you know, whatever. Yeah. But he deals with anxiety, and I've taught him how to meditate. Like I've taught him, like, so we do some things to like help him with his anxiety. Recently he went to a doctor and they wanted to put him on like just a medication. Mm-hmm. And I was like bugging, you know, like really had a huge issue with it. But then again, like I had to like, okay, let's at least see what's happening and let's see what they're saying. And then, you know, through conversation, it was like, look, he doesn't need it, you know, but like when it was told to us, it was more like this could be an option. Yeah. But I heard
this is what we're
doing. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So like I had to like totally reset.
Especially because in this generation, everybody thinks a pill's gonna help them. Everybody thinks something.
Yeah, like that was something that
don't
really,
get me
like,
wrong.
Me,
like I'm still on medications, but
I think medications
I'm on
okay.
SSRIs.
Yeah.
Like I'm on things that build up in your brain. Do I think they help me fully? No, because do I still probably pull my hair out? Yes, I'm gonna admit it. I rip my hair out still. Like I can't fucking stop. And if I could stop drugs and alcohol, and I could stop doing that for 5 years.
I still bite my nails.
I can't stop. Like, but like that's the thing. Like I don't bite my nails. This is what I do though, and it fucking drives me crazy because I just want to be a normal girl. Like, and you know, it's taken me so long to be able to get to wear my hair down. I'll tell you right now, until last year, I hadn't worn my hair down since I was 16. Like that's huge for me. And these things I started building in myself in my sobriety, my self-love. You have no self-love when you are a drug addict and you are in that. You do not love yourself. I used to sit there and say, I love myself so much. Everybody always believed me. I didn't fucking love myself. I could care less if I fucking died. back then.
Yeah.
Like literally, I was putting my own life in my hands of someone who literally gave no shits. Also on the fact that I got tattoos that I don't like anymore, okay? While you're on alcohol at 18, do not get a tattoo. It's not smart. I'm still fixing a bunch of them as the tattooed queen over here.
Right.
Okay. But yeah, I could keep going on and on. I don't know where we went, but all I know is I'm just a raging, recovered drug and alcoholic like person. And, you know, we all have our own stories, but never be scared to do something that's going to help you because it will never hurt you to make a change in your life that you think will better yourself. Because I always held myself back. And a big thing I found in rehab was my personality again. I never, ever showed my personality. I was always scared. And here I am. And like that girl, this is who I was before drugs and alcohol. This personality, this glowing personality. And it's crazy because I think my grandma made me realize that when I was in rehab. She was like, you need to stay like this.
That bridge thing didn't happen for me in rehab. They did like a family day when they would come in at the end before I left.
I think I had to sign up for it. Like it was something you had to sign up for.
I don't know if I could have handled that. But.
I think I've been, as the kid in the situation, I've been through probably like 40 bridges.
Bridges, huh? Really?
So you know, like, what
and we went
like,
to the same facility. Like you said, you went to Seafield. Yeah, like,
both of my parents also went to Seafield at a point in time. I think the hardest one was like, it was like in the beginning of when they were really, because they didn't struggle really like when we were younger. Like they were fine. It was only until like maybe like 11 years ago when I started to notice. I was like graduating college and I started to notice.
You started to notice what was going on.
You just gave me
all
a
of these
thought,
things,
by the way, about something you said before. So like how your wife put your things on the curb, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I watched my dad and my mom, because my mom's not an alcoholic or an addict, but my dad did pass away from drugs and alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the way things were handled in their split weren't appropriate as to what a drug addict deserves in that situation.
Right.
And it could have been handled more maturely, because I always say at this point, if my mom and dad could have been more mature about his problem and like work through
Just
it.
to ask, when did your dad pass away? How long ago was that?
2016.
Oh. Yeah, so, I was going to say, like, addiction is so...
I wish I could have looked at him and said, let's get together, like get
it's so
better.
out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know he had a problem.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't understand
I
because
think,
my mom made it seem like he was a bad person. Like, that's the thing, though. Like, being in the middle of a relationship with a parent who has a problem, you know, seeing it and watching your mom resent this person, and then you have your dad talking bad about your mom and your mom talking bad about your dad, and you're in the middle of it. Yeah. You don't know what to believe. And then I wish all those phone calls I took for granted from my father, because my mother made it seem like I didn't understand addiction. She was too scared to explain the drugs. Right, you know, I'm so young. Like, she didn't think I would understand. Little did she know I was doing drugs. Right. Like, you know, at the end of the day, I could have literally looked at my dad and said, let's get clean together. Maybe that would have we both would have, you know what I mean? But we don't live. Did you do the what if paper at rehab?
I don't remember.
It was like a list of what ifs. So like, it's like, it literally would say what if, and then you filled it out. And like I was like, what if my ex didn't hit me with the belt? What if my dad didn't die? What if, like all the what ifs. Yeah. And like you read it out loud in the group to everybody. And like, that was another big powerful thing for me, because it's like, what if my dad decided to take his sobriety and like go and get sober instead of drinking his life away, to the point where he retained water in his legs and no one knew. Like, he had a coronary heart attack in his truck. Like, you know, like no one knew, because he was shoved out so far, and I was just made to think that he was sick in the head. And, you know, I think another thing I'm starting to realize is my mom kept away my dad's side of the family because they have the drug problem. But it's like, I don't even know my grandma. Like, and they're still like, it's like, it's so sad, because it's like, if people could learn how to work with someone with these problems and bring their lives together, maybe things would be different.
I think Al-Anon, like what you were saying.
Yeah.
You know, like, I just wish like things like that, like, were more open back then, because then I would have my dad. I'm reaching all these milestones, almost like you said, like those things that like you want your dad to be there for you. Like, I work weddings. I walk these girls down the aisle every day. I see their father-daughter dances every day. I know I'm never going to... I have a stepdad. He's amazing. He keeps a roof over my mother's head. Such a great guy. But at the end of the day, that's not my dad.
Mm-hmm.
My dad got taken by drugs and alcohol, and that's the sad truth of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know how your dad passed or if it was
My
due
dad's just
to
old age. I
Okay.
mean, my dad basically drove himself crazy.
Mhm.
With I'm not gonna get into all that,
Mhm.
but like,
No,
he
I
did
just was
some-
wondering if it was due to like anything
Well, my parents
with
are much
addiction.
older. My mom's 88.
Do you
know,
think
like I was like
do you think
not supposed to
alcohol
be.
and drug addiction is like her hereditary thing?
I do believe it's hereditary, and when I think back to my dad, I think my dad had a lot of addict traits.
Okay.
You know, so that's like he didn't drink or do drugs or anything like that, but he had very OCD.
When my dad grew up,
and that actually was what drove him nuts. It was a situation that happened, and he obsessed over it to the point that he drove himself into
crazy.
dementia.
Yeah.
And ended up the dementia just came on so fast, so quick, and he ended up passing away. Like
I'm
a couple
sorry
years
for your
after that.
loss.
Yeah, you know it happens. You know, but and
my
that was that. You know,
My dad grew up in the age where rolling cigarettes at 6 years old was like a thing. Like he
Yeah.
was smoking
my
cigarettes
dad
in
smoked,
elementary
too.
school. So
My-
like like
when I was 13, my dad thought that the reservation and regular cigarettes were so different. I was 13, and he sat me down at a table, and he was like, "Take a pull of this," and I like take a pull, and he'd give me the other one. He's like, "Take a pull of this." I take a pull. I'm like, "No, yeah, they definitely coughing all over." I'm like, "No, they definitely taste different," you know.
I'll always be able to say though, like I got to hit a bong with my dad. That was like the coolest thing I think I ever got to do. Like hit a bong with him, you know.
Yeah.
But like I don't know. I just know like right now he would be so proud of me that I stuck to the sober thing because
Yeah, of course.
it's a strong. Even
Yeah.
like last night when I was out at Tao, like I don't even. It was like I was saying, I was in French Montana section with all these like older men like sitting there like trying to give me alcohol, and I'm like, nope. And they're like, you really don't drink? And I'm like, yeah, I really don't drink. They're like, and I'm like, like, I'm sorry. Like, I can be cool. I could live. Like, you could do things. Like, I still play beer pong. I just have a Kool-Aid in my hand, okay? Like, I don't need to be like these people. I could drink, but it's not alcohol. Like, I literally have I think what pisses me off the most is I'll be out and I have a soda in my hand and people are like, well, what is that? I'm like, well, do you want a sip of my Coca-Cola? Like, do you really like want to influence others to have alcohol in their hand that bad? Like, I'm sorry, I'm not like you. Sorry, we're not
A lot
the
of
same.
people do.
Yeah.
We're not
A
the
lot of
same.
people do.
I mean, it's also you're in a bar, so people are
Yeah.
gonna expect you to
Yeah,
be
but
drinking
like,
in a
who's the
bar,
DD?
You know,
I'm the DD. Always.
you know. So I keep it simple when I go out. I'm very open about my shit. Like, so if I'm around people, most of them know for the most part.
Yeah,
But I'm also not like, you know, I don't drink. Like, you know, I don't know. It's just what it is. So like, if they don't know, I don't really have to expand. That's
And then
just kind of
I
how
love
keep
when
it.
people get super offended at themselves for asking me if I want to drink after I tell them like I don't
They
drink.
feel
I'm like,
horrible.
I'm like, stop. Like, I'm here at the club. Like, I am here for it. You fuck up your life. You do what
Yeah.
you want. I'm here. Like,
I've had situations I've had to leave though. I have been in situations where I've been out and like it was too much for me.
I think I just never really resulted into that
Yeah.
because I waited a while to go out. I waited
Yeah.
2 years into my
Okay.
sobriety to
Yeah.
actually say, okay, let's start. I also was in that shitty relationship with that person that didn't love themselves and sat there in COVID. Like,
Yeah.
how do you love you? How do you love yourself? How do you hate yourself? Like, I just get all that, like, right there could drive a person to go and relapse alone.
Yeah.
Like, don't be around people who don't love themselves because it's just that right there is miserable. And you don't deserve it, people. Okay.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to like feel comfortable with going out? Like, what did you
I
do
felt
before?
comfortable. It wasn't that I didn't feel comfortable. If I would do things, the first when I first got clean was August, so we were having a Christmas party in December, and I told the guys that I didn't feel comfortable going out in that moment. So that was what, 4 months, something like that. I said if we did it with our families or something like that, I'd be okay with it. I was fine going out like after that. But if I was in the situation and I started to feel uncomfortable, I would just leave.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of really how I've always done it. That still happens sometimes
feel
today.
I feel that.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, like it's not like I'm not exempt from it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Last night they're
Right.
trying to get me to stay out later than 4 a.m. I'm like, people, I don't drink. There's no motivation. Like, I don't.
Right.
There's no
Yeah.
afties for Bree. Like, Bree doesn't need to go to the afties. She stayed out. This
How
long.
different is it now seeing people drunk now that
well,
you're
that's
sober?
that's
I love
my
watching
issue.
it.
So that's do you?
Because
I
they don't realize
Well, I
it because
also
it's
work
so
in the
annoying.
industry.
annoying.
I work in the
Uh-huh.
hospitality industry. I deal
Yeah.
with drunk people
Yeah.
professionally.
So like I'll go out
I people watch.
and you know like I said, sometimes I do have to remove myself from situations. Like I just don't feel comfortable in it. You know, like whatever I'm feeling, whatever's like going on, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay to be like, you know,
You're human.
I'm gonna get out of here. You know, like good night. I have been in situations where I couldn't leave, and like people were so wasted, and then I'm just like, oh my god, it's so annoying.
Was
like,
this me?
Like they're just like nonstop.
No,
talking,
I know
like,
when I see
hanging
someone
over
like
you,
me, I go, that's me.
you know. But I just a lot of time, honestly, a lot of times, most of the times you're going out, it's like a Saturday, right? You know, a lot of times what I'll tell myself is like, I'm still gonna wake up at 7, be totally productive for the day, be around for my kids, like do things. That guy's gonna be sleeping until like 4. Like you know. So like, it helps me be able to like stay in the moment without having to like bounce. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of like, but look, I don't feel like I'm exempt from it. I think I could have 20 years and still be in a situation where I'm like, I can't be here right now. You know, like I'm a firm believer that like, just because I'm clean today doesn't mean I have to be clean tomorrow.
Right.
You know, like I'm not like, it doesn't mean it's, you know, that's out of the cards for me. You know, like I'm not one of those that are like, I'm never gonna fucking drink again. I hope I never drink again. I do think if I do what today,
I said the only time I'd ever do it is if a meteor's coming to my face.
Like I just feel
I'll
like,
just pop out the bottle, like, yo, the world's ending. Okay,
my big thing is like, if I do tomorrow exactly what I did today, then I'm pretty sure I'll stay clean tomorrow.
Right.
That's good.
You know, so like that's kind of that thought process. But
day by day.
Yeah, like I don't believe.
I mean, I feel like you learned that in rehab though. Like that's kind of how I live. When people be like, "Oh, what do you do?" I'm like, I live day by day.
Yeah.
Like we do things.
My
day by
daughter
day.
actually hit me with that the other day. My daughter, 'cause again, like I'm a big like I bring recovery into my home a lot, so I'm very big in like stay in the moment. You know, you have to keep your feet.
Are you on like the religious end of it, or are you on?
That
like,
was going to be one of my next questions.
Honestly,
a lot of people bring.
I am not.
I feel like they relate the steps with
so
God.
like that's kind of why
So
I
I
got
don't
scared of
believe in religion at all.
Okay.
I believe in spirituality. Huge into spirituality.
Everything happens for
like really big into spirituality. Like I believe that there's something greater than myself.
Yes.
I can't really tell you what it is, but I believe there's principles that person lives by, and like if I live in those principles of like hope, trust, faith, unconditional love, willingness, open-mindedness, like these are all like really good qualities. So I believe that if I'm living in those qualities, then I'm living to like my higher power's will, let's say, right? But like if I'm being
so does
deceitful,
this sound crazy to you
if
when
I'm
I
not,
say,
if I'm judging, if I'm doing things like that, then I'm living in the opposite. Which obviously I'm human.
I'm
so,
big on
right?
like the karma thing, and like lately, like in my sobriety, like the littlest things, like like putting the cart back at the grocery store, or like. Letting someone cross the road, like, even though it's not their turn to cross the road.
Right.
Just like the littlest things that I used to, as a addict, be like, "Oh fuck that person! That person's an asshole. Why are they doing that?" Like, and now I'm like, I'm that person that I used to be like, "Look at that girl!" Like,
just even not letting things get you so upset.
People
like,
almost have a heart attack when they see me putting the cart back. I'm like,
yeah. It's more spiritual for me. Like I'll be honest, I don't really believe in God.
No,
like,
me either.
I don't believe in afterlife. I don't think if you, I think when you're dead, you're dead. Like, you know, if my mother sees this, she's going to go crazy. But, like, that's just kind of
I was just thinking about the few people.
My daughter's pretty big into, like, she likes religion a lot. Like, I make fun of her all the time. You know, like it is what it is. Like, but that's, your belief is your belief. I do, like, I'm very big into meditation. I pray, like I read these like they're called Just for Today's. They're like little like meditation poems, you know,
in the
morning.
books or
yeah, I read it on my phone. And I read this thing. It's called
I did the AA
Principle.
thing, and I did a bunch of all of it, like for like a year or so after. But then this is what I was gonna get back to. I have ADHD, so I'm all over the place all the time. But it wasn't for me. Like I took the time and like that I would go to meetings to start building my brand in myself, like in this person that I could become an influencer and influence others to do things that they weren't going to do yesterday or things that they didn't believe they could do.
Right.
So like that's kind of what I took my time to do instead, because I took all that from AA and I had a sponsor for the first year. She was awesome. I still have her little card and everything, you know, but for me, I'll go in maybe like once a year if I want, and I'll be like, hey, I made it another year, you know, just to show face. And I go to the older meetings, like older people meetings. I don't want to go to like NA at night or anything. Like, it's not serious. Like, it's not the same. It really is not the same. And I love hearing the stories from people who have been like 30 years sober, because those are the people who know.
Yeah.
Like, know the knows. So
Yeah.
and the cookies and like milk and stuff.
Right,
Like how
the
could
coffee.
you not like
Yeah,
go
the
to like a
coffee.
little meeting, get like a coffee?
It's funny. I've never had the coffee commitment once in 9 years. I've never done it.
Wow.
Really?
They're going to see this and they're going to be like, you do
You
this?
need
We
to do this now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No.
what would be something you would tell families or friends that are dealing with people that go through addictions?
So it's a family disease. Like I don't think you realize it when you're in it. Like you think you're only hurting yourself, so you kind of like look at it like, well, I'm not hurting anybody else, but you really are. Like one, you're stealing time. That's like the biggest thing. Like when you're out and like I could be home with my children, but I'm out finding drugs. Like I think you're stealing time. That's the biggest thing. And like it's the one thing in life that we cannot get back. Like we can't get time back, So to me it's like the most important thing in this world is time. So and then like, your mom's going to bed like upset, like she's worried, right? Like when you're out using like your parent,
the worst time to be like, be careful at night, and then I go out and I get pulled over.
Yeah, I think
fuck?
I think the biggest thing on the family aspect is really like don't enable, like
Don't push.
it's
Don't
not
push.
you, right? Like
Don't push.
I mean I know it's really weird to say this, like if I try to help my son who doesn't want help and he's still doing drugs in my house, I'm gonna kick him out. Go. Like it's not allowed in my house, so like you're going to have to, if he's in it, you can't enable, I think the thing with families, and I probably would suggest going to Naranon, and really like getting help on it and having other people like, I think families think if they kick someone out and they die, it's their fault.
Right.
Right. But the truth is it's not, has nothing to do with you. There is nothing you can do. Nobody could have helped me at all, ever, until I was ready to actually make the choice to go get help. Until someone's at that point, you can't do anything. Like, and being in recovery and staying in the rooms, like, I see it a lot, right? Like, so, like, people ask me to sponsor them all the time. But, and I tell them, I say the same thing to every single person. There's a boundary that I set. There's, like, this is what I expect of you. This is what... But the biggest thing is like whatever you put into your recovery is what I'm willing to give you back on my end, right? And you see it. You see someone who's like really gun ho and ready to do it, and then the other person who like is not gonna make it, right? So I can't do anything. I can't drag him. I can't give him my recovery. I can't recover for him. Like he has to be ready to do it. And I think the biggest things with families is they feel like, if I kick my son out, or I kick my daughter out, like, and something happens to them, it's my fault. It's not. So you have no control. You are totally powerless in this situation.
Right.
And the biggest thing for your own mental health and your own mental being, for me, would be to go somewhere, like a Naranon or an Al-Anon, a therapist, someone that you could talk to really help you understand, but, like, you cannot enable. Enabling will probably make it worse. I actually think it'll make it worse because honestly, the best thing that could happen is that person does something illegal, gets arrested, ends up in jail, changes their life. If they're sitting on your couch, stealing from your pocketbook, hawking all your shit, it's just allowing them to stay out there longer and longer and longer and longer. And that's the biggest thing.
I feel like with my parents, especially because they were going through their addiction together. So I have 3 older brothers and, they all have families. And for the majority of all of it, I always felt like, the burden fell to me because I was still I was still in it. I was living with them for part of the time, and then I would always be more available than they were. So I'd be able to go and help them, and I'd be able to visit them in the hospital or go to the bridge programs and go here and go there. And then there was just a point where I had to talk to them and be like, listen, this isn't fair to me.
To me, it's not.
It's not. Like, it's taking my time.
Yes, it's not.
And it's taking years of my life. And they don't realize the emotional strain it puts on the family.
It is a family disease. It is not just the addict.
100%.
The family suffers just as much. I was clean probably like 3 years, no, maybe longer, and we moved. Now, when I was using, I used to leave the house at like 11 o'clock at night, midnight, 1 in the morning, whatever it was. And I would meet somebody at a 7-Eleven up the road. And then I would come home. So you would hear the door open, obviously, right? And you hear the door close. You're sleeping, you look at the clock, whatever it was. We had moved. and I was playing video games downstairs. So it was probably like 1:30 in the morning. I was like, you know what? I want some fucking Ben and Jerry's. I got up and I left and I went to 7-Eleven up the road. I came home. When I came home, my wife was crying.
Because she thought that
like
you...
PTSD.
Yeah.
Like legitimately crying.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you cannot leave at that time of night. Like, you have to like let me know. Like,
see, but like that's the thing where I went with
know?
like my mom being like accusational, and like it's like I am a human though. Like you need to trust me because I am doing the right thing now, and I'm not doing the wrong thing.
Yeah,
right.
You know?
Yeah, no, I get it, but I
know what you're saying.
you
though.
have to be understanding to them, like,
Right.
Yeah.
because you have to understand that there's trauma on her end. The thing is that they're not doing anything to work on the trauma. You're doing things to work on the trauma, right? Like I go to meetings 3 nights a week to work
but like
on my trauma
but like
and my
that's
stuff.
but see, there's another part of it though, like where I was saying people don't see how much work you're putting in, and that's where it becomes unfair, because at the end of the day you're already putting that much work in that you deserve the respect at the end of the day, because you made that life change and you're doing this 9 years now. You know?
I know.
But
You're right.
if,
I'm not
like
saying
he
you're
said,
wrong.
if your mom didn't take the steps to also get herself better mentally also, she's always going to view you as a person
well,
that's going to
100%.
The other thing is this too, right?
But like I've also shown her
we'll
like
scale
I
it
could go
back.
out,
Like
I
I
could
have
do what
9
I
years
want,
now.
you know?
At the time, I only had 4 years. My wife dealt with it for 6 years, right? So like it's not even yet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? Like it's like when someone gets out of rehab and they're like, I'm clean 30 days. Well,
Right.
yeah, you're clean 30 days. You did 30 years of fucking destruction.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
relax.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not getting the world back in 30 days. Like,
Right.
you know, this is for me, it's like a lifelong battle. You know, like, so, and I just try to see things from their perspective as well. That's
Right.
really the biggest thing. Like, you know.
As someone in a family, like dealing with it, I think in my perspective, like, you know, day by day, you need to be day by day with them. And like he said, they need to want it. You need to encourage them and show them the positives that will come out in the end of them deciding to make that choice, not push it on them. Because I know the biggest pet peeve I had was when everybody was trying to push the sobriety on me. I didn't want it. It was when I didn't want it and everybody else stopped wanting it for me that I learned, oh, wow, maybe I do want this, you know, like, and I just think when I started seeing the little things that were coming out of it that benefited my life and helped me grow and get to this point and build my social status and build just like my job and like everything that I have, from a blow up mattress on my mother's basement to being in my own apartment, you know, like those little things that you do, they feel good. And when you do more and more and more, it feels better. So I just think for anybody that's dealing with this in their family, you know, it's tough to go through, but ride it out and be as supportive as you can. Do not be pushy. That is the biggest thing I could push is do not be pushy.
There's another aspect
You will scare
to it
them.
too, right? It's like the couple who one is an addict when they use and the other one can use like a normal human being. So that person probably has to stop using too.
Yeah.
Right? Like probably has to understand that like.
But you said your mom's like completely like done drinking right now.
Now
for 2
my
years.
mom is 2 years sober, but she's still codependent to his addiction, that he'll go, you know, long periods of time where he's sober, and then but he's the guy that's in the rooms 30 days sober, and he's doing the coffee acting as if like he invented sobriety.
Right.
And then meanwhile she's up there telling her story, and we're all so proud of her, but he's still thinking about when he leaves the room he's going to get a beer.
Right.
You know, but like that's also like kind of another thing that's cool is like I see that people who like the taste of a beer, like the Heineken Zeros do work for them.
Right.
I have friends that like they'll go out and they feel like that's just enough because they have a beer in their hand in a sense, even though it's not. Like, and you know, for me, big thing with like when I get married one day, I will not drink champagne, but I know there's non-alcoholic champagne. Wow.
Yeah.
Like there's different ways around having a drink in your hand.
It all depends
and
on
feeling,
the person.
I feel like
I
drinking
think so
is
too.
also like such a social thing. Like you almost feel influenced by others completely. And you know, that's why I always say like it doesn't matter what the fuck's in my cup. I have a drink and it has a straw in it, right?
I actually was just talking to somebody about this last night. So I wasn't a drinker. Like I didn't drink like socially. Like I didn't go to a barbecue and have a beer with a burger. But this time of year, right? Like this like barbecue season and we're
Mhm.
having people over. I find myself sitting down sometimes and being like, why the fuck can't I just have a beer with a burger? But like the reality is like
You're
I
not
didn't even
wired
like
that way.
that before this.
Right.
Right? Like I wouldn't have done that with if my life didn't turn out the way it did. Like there was never a time in my life where I
Mhm.
sat down and had a beer at dinner. Like
Right.
I've always gotten like Diet Cokes, like
Right.
for dinner. And I go to barbecues, I get like a Diet Pepsi with my
Right.
burger. Like, and now because of like where my life, I'll be looking around and I'm like, why the fuck can't I do that? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like it's not that weird thinking that always like kind of creeps up.
Right.
You know?
My grandfather was like a really horrible alcoholic, and he was a cold turkey, and he lived his life on O'Doul's and Heineken Zeros and all that stuff, and it worked for him.
Yeah.
But
I know somebody like
my
that as well.
dad, he could have a sip of a Heineken Zero, and he's going to buy a pint of vodka.
Because he knows that it's
So
not
like
gonna
it's
do
like
anything.
he's not,
When I was trying to get-
it just
when I was-
doesn't work for everyone.
When I was trying to get clean before I actually went to rehab and all that, because I had so many attempts. I mean, a lot of like I would be like, tell people I got the flu and I try to stay home for a week. I tried smoking, just smoking. And I remember I got so high and then I was sitting in my car and I was like, this fucking sucks.
Right.
Like, this doesn't even feel good. And I was like, I'm going to get wrecked. And that was it. And then I went right on another
I'm going
run.
to buy an 8
I
ball.
went right on another run. Like, it just wasn't what I liked. That's why sometimes when I have those feelings of like a drink, or a blunt, or anything like that, I know that like I don't really
You're
like
not
that.
a downer type
Right.
of person.
Yeah, like
You're
I
more
don't
of an
like
upper.
that.
You're
Like
more
I
of an
know what
upper.
I really want,
liked
and
my
that's why
downers.
like to me it's like this like the risk isn't worth the reward.
Right.
And that's kind of like this that play in my head of like it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. And life's really not that bad.
Right.
Like I
Life
have
is
a lot of fun. Like I
fabulous.
kind of enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're definitely over our time. I don't know what we're at, but
You got two big talkers right
But-
here, bro.
But thank you guys so much for coming. I'm gonna be doing this with. I have a lot of other people that are gonna be coming in the next couple of weeks. You guys can come back, obviously, if you
I'll come
want.
back whenever.
You can invite me whenever.
But thank you so much for sharing your stories, and congratulations on being sober.
Thank
Anybody
you.
out there that needs help, there's places that you can get help. As you know, they just told you two different age groups right here that it's possible.
Just real quick, you have I know for Narcotics Anonymous, there's an app you could download. It's called NA Meetings, and on that meeting, you could hit your location. It'll give you all the
Yes.
meetings in that area. That app also has like literature on there and like stuff like that. And if you get yourself to a meeting, you could actually get phone numbers and people could help you and stuff like that. And
And if you don't think you have like the insurance or something for like the rehab, just call because they'll help you
Yeah,
like
sometimes they'll
find
give you-
a
yeah.
different rehab that covers
and
your
the other thing too,
insurance.
there is a website that you could go on, and there's also an addiction hotline.
Awesome.
Doesn't hurt to do something that helps you.
Right. Thank you so much for coming,
Of
Kenny.
course.
Take us out.